we need to be always wary that we need to provide entertainment that's interesting for our audiences, and never kind of take it for granted that the sport is doing well. And if we continue on that trajectory, we provide entertainment and good narrative, I think we can continue to grow.
Welcome to another episode of The Winning Formula presented by Nasdaq. My name is Joel Kalani, your host, and we are here today with Mercedes F1 CEO and co-owner, Toto Wolff. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
We really wanted to drill in on the growth of F1 in the United States. I really wanted to ask for you the strategy and what you've seen recently since the sport has gone overseas, come to the United States. You've seen multiple races in the United States. What do you owe the success and the growth of F1 in the United States so far?
Interestingly, the sport has always been big on a global sphere. Pretty much all the continents, but the US kind of never took off. We were in Austin for a long time, and live audiences were always good. But in terms of broader acceptance of the fans, that kind of never worked in the way we would have wished. But then we were the first sport to put on a show during the lockdowns, during COVID. Netflix did a wonderful job in launching their Drive to Survive series. We provided exciting entertainment and rivalries and a tough end to the 2021 season, and lots of young drivers that are using social media extensively. And that, I think, helped us in the United States massively. And our strongest growing demographic are young females, 15 to 35. And you can see that we're tapping completely new audiences.
To kind of double click on that, you put on that show during COVID. What was the process of actually bringing that together and deciding to do it, getting that audience out? What was because at that time, everyone was looking at everyone else, all the leagues. They were saying, is UFC going to do first? And what was the process for bringing that together and having it actually come to fruition?
It was extremely complex, and it was a good collaboration between the governing body, the commercial rights holder, the Liberty, and all the teams. And the kind of process we put in place was so disciplined and stringent that call it few thousand people, I think it's 5,000 about, that travel with the teams, went through some extensive protocol in order to attend the races. And I think I must have done 300 COVID tests within the time of 9 months.
Yeah.
And that worked well. We had no live audiences, but at least we were able to race. And Formula One is a broadcasting sport. So as long as you can see them telly well and the cars and everything that's happening, that's pretty good.
Amazing. And you just mentioned growing fastest, women 15 to 35. Your wife happens to run Susie Wolff F1 Academy. What do you owe, I guess, that expansion in that demographic, the growth of the popularity of the sport within that demographic beyond F1 Academy, just in general? What are you seeing? What have you noticed where that demographic has taken to the sport so fondly over the past few years?
Formula One was always an affluent sport, and it's not easy to access. Our tickets are expensive because the sport overall is so expensive. What we were able to do is to create access for any income group, hopefully, and particularly in the United States, the promoters did that really well. And in terms of demographic, I would still say that 90% of our fans are affluent fans. Is that going to change? I don't know, but we are very much working on it to tap a broader fan demographic.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, there's interest in making the sport more accessible, right? And across income ranges, so it doesn't always remain necessarily just an affluent sport. Would you say that, within the United States, expanding the races to all these different cities, Vegas, Austin, Miami, that's done a good job of at least bringing the sports closer to those fans, regardless of income race, that they know what's going on, they hear about it. It's much closer to them than if the races were happening overseas?
Very much. I think what also the differences in Grand Prix that we have in the United States are interesting for various audiences. I don't think we're going to always have the same fan or guest attending Las Vegas that is coming to Austin. It's a very different offer also as well. So we have a good mix really between an Austin race, which has been on the calendar since a long time. You have the proper feeling of being there, at a race with a program around, and then you're going to Miami and to Las Vegas. It's maybe different. The race happens to be the main event, but you're there being entertained by various other spectacles and offerings. And I think that's very good how balanced it is, that there's something for everyone.
I love that. And as a leader and co-owner of the Mercedes F1 team, you know a lot about resilient leadership. We champion resilient leadership and have it as a theme here at Nasdaq. What would you say as a leader has been kind of the keys for you to remain resilient in times ups and downs, whatever regulations may come about, and keeping the sport popular, making sure your team is still prepared, making sure that the sport continues to grow?
The mindset is extremely important, and it's not something you can put on a PowerPoint and project to the wall and saying we shall be resilient. The truth is you have to live it day in and day out. You have to live to certain standards and values. And for us, the most important is humility, integrity, and loyalty. And if you create a set of objectives with the right values that people buy in, you create something that is exceptional as a team feeling. And within that team, we're going to carry each other through more difficult times, and look at it from the long-term perspective. For me as a co-owner of the team, it's not that important what's happening on a single race weekend, even a year. I'm looking at it with a 20-year perspective and like to have many more world championships, knock on wood, that we are able to win, but not every single one. And that's why you build a resilience level because of maintaining a long-term perspective.
Yeah, I love the thought of that and how you worded it. Pivoting a little bit, I want to ask, in alignment with the growth of the sport, part of the success is owed to the content, the Drive to Survive, the series. How important are the personalities, the storylines, the narratives to the growth of the sport? We know, human beings love stories, narratives, personalities. How important is it to also elevate those voices, the members of your teams, to bring forward those personalities in the storylines that come with every race?
And I think this is where Drive to Survive has done a perfect job, because it put the spotlight on individuals that otherwise wouldn't have been there. Ferrari and us, we didn't want to play first season because we felt our reason to live is winning Formula One World Championships. And that gave an opportunity. So that in a way, that was a blessing in disguise, because it gave an opportunity to showcase smaller teams and drivers that otherwise wouldn't have won races. And that created a fan support, because people support people. And suddenly, each of the drivers has certain fan group. They're all different characters, which is nice. And people want to see how their favorite driver or their favorite team is going. And that's just a human factor.
We have a segment here on the Winning Formula called Crunch Time. We ask some fan-submitted questions. Just a couple here for you. If you weren't an F1 driver, what sport do you think you would play?
I like American football, the NFL, but obviously in Europe, the NFL is not has not such a big footprint.
Fair. And do you think you would have been a quarterback?
And I don't know. This is so complex as a quarterback. You've got to have a good throwing hand and tactics.
Would you say for yourself, you have in no particular order, a top 3 or top 4 of racers of all time?
Yeah. So Niki Lauda would be my first pick. He was 3-time world champion, super resilient, had a big accident, almost burned half his body, came back and won another championship. He was the Mercedes chairman. He was my best friend before he died, and clearly my number 1 pick as an overall individual. Number 2, the obvious one, Lewis Hamilton. Lewis and I were lucky to have had each other for 12 years. We're much more than just colleagues or boss-driver relationship. We are allies, we're friends, and so that's my number 2 pick. And my number 3 pick, when we're looking at the history, Ayrton Senna. It would be, we have never kind of seen how many titles he could have won beyond the 3 that he has, because he died in an accident in 1994, but he was a spectacular individual as well.
Yeah, great story that he has on Netflix as well, a documentary on Senna. Do you have, final question, a favorite track?
From different perspectives. Unfortunately, what we do is a bit boring. We land on the airport, we go to the hotel, to the track, to the hotel, to the track, to the airport.
Yeah.
But there are some really good racetracks that I enjoy driving myself. Suzuka in Japan is one of them. I like the ambience and the atmosphere with the Tifosi in Monza. And I like also the American racetracks. Austin has been such a loyal partner over those years. coming there, seeing the crowds is massive. And then the same way going to Las Vegas and Miami is totally new for us. So I'm looking forward to this as well. It's a great place to host partners. So I'm trying to pick good spots of
I like
all
that.
the races.
Yeah, 5 years time, hopes, 5-10 years time, long-term hopes for F1 in the United States.
We need to be always wary that we need to provide entertainment that's interesting for our audiences and never kind of take it for granted that the sport is doing well. And if we continue on that trajectory, Liberty is doing a great job that we provide entertainment and good narrative. I think we can continue to grow.
Love that. That wraps the episode of The Winning Formula presented by Nasdaq. I am your host, Joel Kalani. Toto Wolff, thank you so much for joining us today. Wonderful conversation. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you.